but identify more pilot sites for next year that we can target and look at identifying children who would normally get free school meals who might be going without.
News from off-island next.
Welcome to the Millichap sale, with fabulous store-wide reductions from beds and flooring to sofas, cane furniture and accessories, rugs, pictures, mirrors and wallpapers. Friendly help and advice as always. Don't miss the Millichap's of Ramsey sale. Now on!
Further afield, pupils and staff at secondary schools in Scotland could be told to wear masks after an outbreak of COVID-19 at a school in Dundee. First Minister Nicola Sturgeon says her government's in the final stages of considering the move. Meanwhile, British Education Secretary Gavin Williamson's pleaded with parents to send children back to the classroom in England next month. Boris Johnson says pupils' life chances will suffer if they don't return. And India is now leading the world in new coronavirus infections as the disease spreads through rural areas there. More than 3.1 million cases have been confirmed in the country. And Hampshire, fast to due, the weather fine this evening with sunny spells and light winds. Cloud will increase later this evening. The wind will strengthen from the east. Heavy rain will arrive during the night. Temperatures no lower than 13 degrees Celsius. Sunset just before 8:30, sunrise at 6:15, and heavy rain at first tomorrow will become lighter and more intermittent by late morning, but rain will continue at times throughout the day. And as I mentioned earlier, do be aware of that amber weather warning. Manx Radio News, 4 minutes past 6. I'll be back with a roundup at 11. In the meantime, keep up to date by following Manx Radio on social media or head to manxradio.com.
By Sainsbury's. Store cupboard and everyday items. Pay less and feel good. You know you're getting famous Sainsbury's quality only at ShopRite. Proudly locally owned.
Need a new TV? Waltons offer a great selection, all on display and in stock. From the latest Samsung QLED TVs to LG OLEDs. Call in and see the difference for yourself, or visit waltons.im.
Jones Wools and Craft for all your creative materials and craft fabrics this season, where you'll find all you need to start knitting, crocheting, sewing and more, including gift ideas, sewing machines and gift vouchers. Get crafty at Jones Wools and Crafts, Village Walk, Oncon. See in store for this season's offers and promotions.
Whether you're laying a new driveway or planning an extension, one local Manx company knows the importance of the right foundations, including drainage. Contact Manx Construction and Groundworks for expert knowledge and reliable workmanship. Call Tony on 452688.
To help support the Man-Cat Sanctuary, you can visit our website and donate to our food bank, or visit Bradley's Gift Shop. We rely entirely on the generosity of our supporters and worldwide visitors. Visit our website at mancat.com for more info.
Fast am I, and a very good evening. I'm Alex Watson, and you're listening to a live edition of Agenda this evening, the second final Douglas South by-election special. We're hearing from the candidates in person, and as there are 10 in total, most of the island's seen in a by-election, we've split them down the middle, and we'll be speaking to 5 candidates this evening. The previous 5 were last Monday. It's being done alphabetically, so joining me this evening are Andrew Jessup, Michael Josem, Kevin Oliphant Smith, Lon Pinkerton, who's currently isolating, so he'll be joining us remotely, and Paul Quine. The other candidates we spoke to last week are Anthony Allen, Pamela Burney-Malarkey, Claire Christian, Ian James Clanton and David Fowler. We are live streaming on Facebook and YouTube, and this programme will be available after the broadcast as a podcast. And to begin, each person will introduce themselves with a short opening statement about who they are and why they want your vote on the 27th of August. So let's get started with Andrew Jessup.
Hello, I'm Andrew Jessup, the Green Party candidate for the election. I'm going to be blunt and make no apologies for doing so. The Isle of Man is in a health crisis, an economic crisis, as well as a climate crisis. Given the seriousness of the situation in which we find ourselves, I suggest now is not the time for experimenting with evangelistic youth, the politically naive or inexperienced, or a man with a briefcase who promises to somehow find someone to build you a theme park. In this election, you are being asked for your trust that a whole host of promises will be delivered, and you should ask yourself, do they have sufficient proven track record to back this up? Furthermore, during the campaign, it seems to me issues or proposed policies have been presented by candidates as though no one has ever thought of them before, and that offering help or assistance to local people or businesses is some form of novelty. Well, with no disrespect intended, when many of them were still wearing nappies or short trousers or living in another country, I was already fully engaged with the island's community, and I can assure them I've heard precious little that is new or different from what has been said or done before. When I first came knocking on the doors of South Douglas nearly 20 years ago, I was saying similar things then as I am now, but the electorate chose the experience and knowledge of David Cretney and Adrian Duggan. So what is different now? I literally got on my bike and went off to gain the same knowledge and experience. I helped to form Zero Waste Man, and as a locally authority member established the curbside collection in Douglas and Braddon. I created Tynwald Watch and attended Tynwald inquiries and reported on various scandals to affect the island, and helped found the Positive Action Group to encourage the public to become more politically aware. I launched the Isle of Man Health and Care Association and helped people resolve an issue with a hospital or help them to gain access to support or services. As a self-employed subcontractor, I petitioned Tynwald, and as a result the upper limit for claims in the small claims court was doubled, and more recently I lobbied the Treasury and DFE over the lack of financial support for many self-employed people during the COVID-19 lockdown.
Mr. Jessup, sorry, we are doing just a minute for the opening statement, so let's go back into some of those points in just a moment, but we do have to move down the line, I'm afraid, as we are on limited time. So next up is Michael Josem.
Good evening, my name's Michael Josem and I'm running to be a strong voice for Douglas South in the by-election that's happening on Thursday. I'm running because I've heard your comments in recent weeks that we need someone to focus on jobs, someone to focus and fight on securing our National Health Service to ensure it is local, high quality and accessible, and someone who will be a strong voice to ease the squeeze on household finances. But most of all, I've heard that we need someone who will be a strong voice to represent our community to the government instead of being the government's representative to our community. And so, on Thursday, spend a couple of minutes, come along, have your say, and cast your vote for a strong voice for Douglas South on Thursday.
Thank you very much. And next up, of course, is Kevin Oliphant Smith.
Good evening, South Douglas constituents. First, I'd like to thank Manx Radio for hosting tonight's show and allowing all the candidates a chance to get their views across to the public. By now, you will all have received my manifesto through your door. I guess the big question on everyone's mind is, why am I standing for this election and why should you vote for me? Well, I'm standing because, like you, I've become sick and tired of our elected representatives knocking on our doors, promising the world and then not seeing them until the next election. I do not feel that we have fair representation for the hard, dedicated workers on our island, who struggle every month to make ends meet. Now, I don't have all the answers, and I can't wave a magic wand or fix everything overnight, but I can promise to represent you, your concerns, and your ideas within Tynwald. You, the community, will be my priority, and I will ensure that our community does not just survive, but thrives.
Thank you very much. Next up, we're going to try our hands at some technology and speak to Lon Pinkerton, who is self-isolating. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to join into the debate. I'd just like to say to everyone out there, this isn't an election about Lon Pinkerton or the other candidates standing before you or their manifestos or anything else. This is about your future in the next 12 months. I hope with my absence, I'm somewhat of an invisible candidate, but I hope with what I've got out and the feedback I've had from constituents, the things that matter to you are your concern.
As suspected, we have some technical difficulties. We will get Mr. Pinkerton back on the telephone line, which should be a little bit safer a little bit later in the programme. For now, though, let's move on to our final, last but not least, of course, candidate Paul Quine.
Thank you, Alex. I'm standing as an independent candidate, and therefore I'll not be swayed by any factional or partisan party considerations. Having been brought up in the area, the issues which matter most to me are the issues which matter most to you. And during the course of the last month, as I've walked around the area and met so many old friends and hopefully introduced myself to some new ones, various issues have been highlighted to me. There's a wide scope of issues which are affecting the constituency, such as an inadequate and infrequent bus service in Saddlestone, the quality and affordability of new build homes, and the real moral injustice of our time, the cost of nursing care for some of our elderly citizens. In addition, there are other issues, such as antisocial behaviour and low-level crime. Good, decent people live in Douglas South, and they should feel protected and safe within the community. So if elected, it will be my duty to use my voice as yours. The primary role of a politician is to try and make people's lives better, not to put unnecessary hurdles in their way, but to try and assist them as much as they can and do their best on the people's behalf.
Thank you very much. We're going to very briefly head back to Mr. Pinkerton, who just has some final thoughts, if we can.
Sorry about that. The phone cut out. Apologies for that. All I was going to say was I've had 30 years experience working in the public services, and with my track record recently working in the HR field, I think I've got more than enough experience to try and help people with concerns about their jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, and we will attempt to come back to you in a little while as well. Well, let's move down the line and try and be fairly quick-fire if we can. Mr. Jessup, now, as the Green Party candidate, is the environment the top priority for you as an elected, if elected, Douglas South representative?
It's obviously one of the key issues, because if we don't have a clean, healthy environment, then most of what else we do is going to become irrelevant in the future. So it's about protecting people's futures, not just our own, but our kids and our grandkids. I don't want to leave a legacy behind that I'm ashamed of. And I think it's, that we need sooner or later to address many of the environmental issues that people can see with their own eyes that's going on around the world.
Is that a Douglas South issue, though?
Speaking to people on the door, yes, it is, because they are concerned about the world that we will live. We will leave for our children and our grandchildren if we don't do our bit. Yes, the Green Party is also effectively a people's party. It's about people and communities. It's about providing better public services. It's about building better communities, not just more houses. So certainly, yes, it's not a case of, say, stopping doing things. It's a case of doing things differently so it doesn't have so much of an impact on the environment, so much impact on people's health. And also, if we get it right now, it will save us an awful lot of money in the future, because if we don't, things will just become totally unaffordable for us to actually do any of the mitigation that we may need to do to address the changes in our climate.
In your opening statement, you talked in detail about the experience you've had. You've been a Braddon Commissioner for many years. Why the change of allegiance?
Well, I've also pointed out in the beginning that I stood for Douglas South in 2001. So, you may say I'm actually returning back to my original roots. That was, I originally lived in Douglas and worked in Douglas. So that is obviously an area that is of concern to me. Plus, also, if most people look at their deeds of their property, they'll find they actually still live in the parish of Braddon anyway.
OK, well, in your manifesto, you said you'll change how local services are paid for and delivered in regards to rates and utility changes. Now, if elected, you'll be in term for the space of 12 months. So how do you plan to do that in that amount of time?
Well, if you also read on the back of my manifesto, it says this is a 6-year plan. It's not a 1-year plan. I'm a realist. I'm not going to be able to change the world in 12 months. But we have another election in 12 months' time. There will be more Green Party candidates standing. And most of what I have put forward now will form the basis of the election campaign in 12 months' time, because circumstances are highly unlikely to change very much in that period.
Well, moving down the line then, Michael Josem, you've previously stated, and I quote, "I am the leading environmentalist candidate in this by-election." Well, you're sitting next to the Green Party candidate, chair of the party, climate change campaigner of 30 years and founding member of Zero Waste Man. Do you stand by that statement?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I've heard loud and clear that the people of Douglas South want someone who will be a strong advocate to protect our environment. And so that's why I'm proud to be the only candidate to have a clear manifesto commitment to opposing fracking, drilling, mining and extracting fossil fuels from the Isle of Man. Similarly, that's why we've got a costed and achievable plan to connect Annika, Poolrose, Farm Hill and Saddlestone into central Douglas by the use of a cycle path. But I think much more than the environment, and I don't want to be pigeonholed as just a one-party or one-issue candidate here, is that it's really important that we rein the focus on jobs, healthcare, and easing the cost of living. And that's why these environmental commitments all fall into that packet of focusing on protecting jobs and the healthcare.
Well, just on that, the Climate Change Coalition asked you to change some wording as they were unable to endorse your description of yourself as a leading environmentalist due to what they say was your past climate change denial. Can you give some clarity on that?
So I don't know what they're talking about. I think that what's really important is we protect the environment, and so that's why I'm proud to be the only candidate to have used 100% recycled paper in so many of the brochures that we've been distributing in recent weeks. Because I'm not one to preach to others, but rather lead by example. That's why I'm proud to be a candidate.
I believe that Andrew Jessup also has recycled a list of the ways he produced his manifesto in a recyclable way.
And that's great, and I welcome him to join that. And so that's why my website is hosted on 100% carbon neutral service here in the Isle of Man, because I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk, and that's really important going forward, that we focus on jobs, we focus on healthcare, but to do that in an environmentally sustainable way.
Well, moving on to other issues then, you've been very active on social media in your campaign so far, using controversial language on a number of occasions, specifically in reference to people guilty of sexual abuse crimes. I quote a recent statement, "We need tougher crimes for these bastards." Now, I assume you mean tougher punishments, but also is that appropriate language for an elected representative?
Sure, look, I speak openly and honestly, and I've heard loud and clear that people of Douglas South want someone who will speak openly and honestly to them. I'm not a traditional politician. I don't come from a political background. That's not who I am. I'm someone who speaks openly and honestly, and I've heard loud and clear that the people of Douglas South have said that they want the minimum sentences for some of these people. So, for example, when someone is convicted of indecent assault of a child, I believe that they should be sent to prison.
Well, it's an opinion shared by other candidates here. Moving along to Kevin Oliphant-Smith, something also in your manifesto, you're looking for tougher punishments for those. This is a hot topic at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so, since I think there's actually an appeal going forward for the case we're all probably talking about. So I don't think we can get into that too much. But obviously there was a lot of press coverage for a recent case where the individual didn't get a custodial sentence. So to me, I think that's ridiculous when there's people on the street getting custodial sentences and as Michael pointed out as well, criminal records for a minute amount of cannabis. And that's on their record then for life. So that's going to have an effect on their jobs and things like that. So, yeah.
Well, what would your top priority be then for the next 12 months at least?
There's a lot. I'd like to have a look at the planning committee. I think that needs overhauled completely. I think there's an awful lot of planning consent being given to some of the more bigger companies, which are only benefiting the high net wealth individuals. Decriminalisation of cannabis would be another one.
Is that medicinal or recreational?
Decriminalisation of any cannabis on the Isle of Man. So recreational. So if you're caught with a small amount of cannabis, that it's not recorded. It's it could be taken off you. It could be maybe a small fine, but you're not going to get a criminal record. It's not going to be noted down. Obviously, if it's over a certain amount, then that's different because that comes under distribution. Sorry. So, of course, we need to not accept that. But there is a lot of people going through the court system for £2 worth of cannabis, which that's costing us. That's costing the taxpayer money. So that's not solving anything.
If elective, you have 12 months, as I say. Your manifesto talks about health, housing, employment, community policing, travel. There's a lot in there. Is there a lack of focus there?
No. So basically, I could have gone on. I could have written a phone book full of things that I would like to do, things that...
But realistically, you have to have top priorities, don't you?
Yeah, I have top priorities, but what I'm saying is I'm giving people an idea of where I stand on certain subjects. I'm not saying I can get all those done within 12 months, but certainly we can make headway within those 12 months. Now, the medicinal cannabis route, I believe I'm the only person to have been off island last year and met with medical cannabis consultants. I also went to a seminar in Bristol last year to learn about the benefits of medicinal cannabis, CBD and THC, and the combination of both and the different effects they can have. I also learned what can be prescribed on the Isle of Man. At the moment on the Isle of Man, it can only be Sativex, which is for MS patients. So if you want anything else, which is Bedrolite or Bedrocam, are the two mostly prescribed ones, they only can be done on private prescription by someone who has medical cannabis training as a consultant level, and that can't be done on the Isle of Man.
Okay, we'll move on now and try again at technology and speak to Mr. Long Pinkerton, who's been patiently waiting there. Your top priority for the next 12 months?
Specifically in relation to those on low incomes in Douglas South who, like myself, live in social housing. We need more clarity and support going forward. I know some of the salary support schemes are coming to an end soon, and I would hope, if successful on Thursday, to persuade the government to extend those. I've spoken to people in the hospitality industry and other sectors who are genuinely concerned about putting food on the table for themselves and their family.
You said in your manifesto the economy is a top priority of yours following the impact of COVID-19, and you want to be part of what you call a conversation. Can you explain it in detail what your plans are to help revive the economy?
When I put that statement out originally in my initial manifesto, it was before I went away for my father-in-law's funeral. And since then, I've had a bit of time to look at the figures. The £100 million recovery scheme is a good start. We have to bring into the business sector some more sense of stability going forward, more government support. At the end of the day, that's why, with my socialist background and my working class background, I think we need to secure the public services to be able for everything else to move on.
With that in mind, would you be prepared to raise taxes to improve services?
Absolutely. I made a statement with the pro forma questionnaire that Isle of Man newspaper sent out. I think I was the only candidate who actually said I would support tax rises. Like I say, with my left-wing background, I think it's important that we have a government for all people, not just those at the very top on very high salaries.
You've mentioned your working class background, the fact that you've lived in the constituency, you still do. Is it more local issues that matter to you rather than national ones?
Both, really. I think as a representation of the island's community, Douglas South is pretty much a split between those in social housing and those who live in their own house. I'm very supportive of business. I don't want it to appear that I want to turn the clock back to the 1970s. With my HR background, I know that we have to work in conjunction with unions to secure collective bargaining and help.
Well, that was bound to happen again, wasn't it? What a shame. We'll try again to get that line back in just a moment. Mr. Paul Quine, your top priority then as a representative of South Douglas?
Well, it's a by-election, Alex, and we've got 12 months until the general election, so it's okay standing on the grander stage and making promises and seeking to address the sort of wider issues as they may appear. But the real issues are those that are affecting the community. And as I said in my opening statement, we can talk about various national issues, but it's not going to get the buses round Saddlestone, where pensioners can't get to the hospital and they can't get into the town. We have to address what's going on in the area, and there are a lot of social issues which have been highlighted to me. The poor state of repair of some of the social housing stock in the area, the fact that frequently cars are seen to speed through the estates, and people fear for the safety of their children.
How would you tackle that?
Well, look, put some speed bumps in, liaise with the police, and try and highlight the issues. I mean, it was highlighted to me this afternoon on one road in the area. A gentleman took me out to show me how cars frequently speed through the area, and it was there graphically illustrated for anyone to see. Children were playing adjacent to the road, and cars were driving through in excess of the speed limit. So it's the local issues that need to be addressed. I'm a local lad. I come from the area, and I know how people feel and think about these.
Another issue on your manifesto is heating. You're fairly clear that you're against the current price of gas and that too many people are facing fuel poverty. How are you going to change that?
Well, I've looked at maybe setting up a consumer council to address the issue. So 2 or 3 members of the general public, free from any political interference. So we have no politicians involved. Meet regularly. But
you're trying to be a politician.
Yes, but I feel that this is a very much a public issue. So you can be accused of political grandstanding on these issues, and I don't think any politician should try and make capital out of hardships that people are facing with such things as heating prices. So I feel that 2 or 3 members of the general public meet quarterly with members of Manx Gas, the MEA, the utilities, the oil companies, and maybe a member or 2 of the Office of Fair Trading, and they discuss the current charges for heating. And what's more, I'd also have the...
Have you approached them to see if there would be an appetite on their behalf?
Well, not as yet, but, not being elected, if you're just a member of the public, then, of course, you're not going to get any significant response for them. It's only if you are elected, then your proposal carries a bit of weight. But what's more, I'd like to see the minutes of any such meetings published in the Courier, so everyone can read what was being said and what was being discussed on the issue.
You also discuss a number of issues regarding housing, that you support government's two shared equity schemes for first-time buyers. You're happy with the Hazel Court sheltered housing facility as a success. So what more do you want to see regarding housing if you support the current efforts so fully?
Well, as you may or may not know, the people in Spring Valley for a long time been uncertain about the future of their houses, whether the houses were to be renovated or whether they'd been to be demolished, and they needed some clarity from the corporation on this issue. And last week they received a letter to the effect that the Department of Infrastructure are not going to be supporting the renovations of the properties, and therefore it looks as if the properties will now be demolished and a new estate replacing it. So in view of that, I'd like to see more accessible housing for our older generation, bungalows, and obviously built with due regard to the environment.
Okay, as predicted, we're running out of time, but if I may, we could try and do a quick 30 seconds final closing statement with each of the candidates' technology providing. So quickly, going back to Andrew Jessup.
Thank you. I've obviously given some idea of what I think I've achieved over the last 30 years, and that I've actually got a track record of actually doing things rather than just promising to do them for the community. So I think, given the very short period of time left of this current Parliament, and with the difficulties that we're going to be facing in the next 2 years, that we need somebody that has got a proven track record of providing good, affordable public services and facilities that the community has asked for.
Michael Jason?
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, look, our campaign is not part of a traditional Manx political establishment, and our campaign is about providing a strong voice for the people of Douglas South, someone who will fight for the people of Douglas South in terms of jobs, healthcare, and easing the squeeze on the household finances. And so that's why fundamentally I'm running, and I encourage you to come along on Thursday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m, have your say, and ensure that we have someone who will be our representative to the government instead of the government's representative to us.
Kevin Oliphant Smith?
Thank you. If you finally want to introduce someone with common sense, vote for me. If you want someone who will stand up and fight for your best interests, vote for me. If elected, I will spend every day fighting to improve the quality of life for you, because that's what we deserve, and it's been a long time coming. I'd just like to add, if I can, I'm actually holding a public meeting as well tomorrow between 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Douglas Golf Club, and anyone's welcome to come along.
And Lon Pinkerton? No, it's not looking like we've got him. Sorry. We will be doing interviews individually after this broadcast, so we will get a fuller understanding of anything that's been missed out. And as I say, not last but not least, Paul Quine.
Thank you. And just to reiterate what I've said already, I feel that this is a by-election and it should be fought on local issues to benefit local people. So should I be lucky enough to gain the confidence of the electorate on Thursday, that's exactly what I shall set out to do and use my voice as theirs on their behalf.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for joining us this evening. We're completely out of time, but you can listen back to this as a podcast. Watch the video on our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, all the normal channels. And there will be the individual videos being posted this evening, available at manxradio.com with each of the candidates and their biggest priorities for this by-election on Thursday. Next up then is Greatest Hits with George Ferguson in the chair. Have a very good evening.